Hello and welcome to Tommy Talks TV, the place to be to build great love relationships. I'd like to start by saying a very big thank you. Thank you for all your likes and your shares and your comments on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. I really appreciate you because you're helping us spread the message further, faster. So thank you very much indeed. Now today I want to do something slightly different. Normally I would answer questions that come from viewers, but what I want to do is to actually speak about something that I've received several questions about. So essentially what it is this: how far is too far in a Christian relationship? Essentially, when people ask this question, what they're asking is this: when you're in a Christian relationship, with someone, how much can you do in terms of, getting close together, getting intimate with each another? How far can you go without actually sinning, right? So the truth of the matter is this: if you are still trying to push the boundaries of purity, you have already left the highway of holiness. And I just want you to pause and think about that for a moment, because I always think that, when people ask this question, they're actually asking the wrong question. The question is not how much can I get away with as a Christian without God getting angry with me. The question is this: how can I put boundaries around my life so that I protect myself from finding myself in a position where I shouldn't be as a Christian and from harming my relationship with God? I really think that that's the way that we need to approach it, because there is nowhere in the Bible where you will find it saying, thou shalt not kiss thy fiancé or thou shalt go to hell. There's nothing like that in the Bible. But on the other hand, the Bible gives us guidelines about, how we should conduct ourselves as Christians so that we don't find ourselves in a position of falling into sexual immorality, which the Bible speaks against. So the Bible speaks in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 18. It says, "Flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body." So it doesn't say negotiate with sexual immorality. It doesn't say see how far you can go without falling into sexual immorality. Instead, it says flee from it. In fact, there's a scripture that says flee from every appearance of evil. In other words, run from it. Stay as far away from it as possible. So I always think that that's actually the better approach. Do everything you can to protect yourself rather than trying to see, how far can I go? Well, maybe I can kiss and not, feel too bad and all the rest of that. Maybe we can go a step further. Maybe we can go into petting and all that sort of thing. I think that's the wrong question, because if your relationship with God really matters to you, you don't want to push yourself to the point where you fall into sexual sin. Because I have been, counseling couples, and people in relationships for a long time, and the truth of the matter is this: most people who are Christians and have a relationship with God do not actually set out actively to fall into sexual sin, but because they don't put the proper appropriate boundaries around themselves to protect themselves, then they find themselves in situations that they did not plan for. So the question is not how far can I go, the question is what can I do to protect my relationship with God? And that's essentially what we should be focusing on as Christians. So one thing you need to realize is this: that when you put boundaries around yourself, the boundaries that you put around yourself will help you. They will guide you towards the kind of relationship that you know in your heart that you should have as a Christian. And they, even though sometimes people might think, well, your boundaries are too strict, but when you put those boundaries around yourself, what that does is this: it safeguards your position. Because ultimately, I always feel that we always need to remember the scripture that says, even he who thinks he is standing should be careful so that he doesn't fall. So sometimes, people overestimate their self-control and they feel, oh, I can kiss or I can pet, and I'm not going to run into trouble. But that is hardly ever the case. So, and I'd like to leave you, with one insight that I gathered from, the scripture. The Greek word for kiss is actually nashak, right? And that word nashak actually means to kindle, to set on fire, to get ready to burn, right? So I always ask the question, why would you set yourself on fire if you're not ready to burn? That's the bottom line. So doing, all sorts of things that stir you up sexually, and make you feel like you should take a step further, it's causing more problems than, you would have if you actually stayed away from such things, because ultimately one case leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. The law of diminishing returns sets in, and before you know what's happening, you end up falling into sin. So what am I saying? Set boundaries to protect yourself. No one has ever said to me, oh, I seriously regret not kissing my fiance, or, not petting with my fiance before we got married. But I have spoken to so many people who say, I seriously regret letting down my guard, and just allowing myself to get carried away emotionally. So essentially what I'm saying is this: protect your relationship with God. It is always worth it. Well, I hope this has helped you. If this has helped you, then please leave me a message on Facebook or on Twitter, on Instagram or YouTube. And if you've got a question you would like me to answer, then head on over to tometalks.com/ask and I'll answer your question next time. See you next time. Bye-bye.